This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. Welcome back to The Forging Table. The mission of Undaunted.Life is equipping men to push back darkness with content that forges spiritual, mental, and physical resilience. At The Forging Table, you'll see a group of regular guys forging spiritual resilience by digging into God's Word, and we're welcoming all of them. Man, all right.
It's not my fault this time.
It's not your fault this time. But, you know, we're welcoming all of you to come on this journey with us. That's Jake, that's Ryan, that's Derek.
What do you got? You guys are getting me with the silence. I love it. Better get used to it.
Get used to what?
The silence.
Enjoy the silence. It's like a Depeche Mode song over here.
Derek, how awkward was that?
It's a little awkward.
Ryan had to be the one to cut the awkwardness, right? You couldn't just let it go. You couldn't just be quiet over there. You had to say something.
I felt bad for him, man. Today we learned about mercy.
I literally gave you a 4-hour notice that we were going to make Derek feel awkward, and you were the one that ended up feeling awkward.
I was scolded not to laugh.
I
held it together. I'm very proud of myself.
The thing I told Jake to have in mind to keep him from laughing was I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
There's no way I'm going to say it on the show, okay? But I will tell you afterwards what I told him to think about. But the reason why is Derek, because I think of all the people that have come on the Forging Table, your per episode word average is probably the lowest out of everybody. And you are up against it today because you have Jake and Ryan here. This is one of the worst possible setups for a guy like you that likes hearing other people talk more than you like hearing yourself talk.
Yeah, I definitely do.
You gonna be okay?
I'll be all right.
Because what we're gonna do today is we're gonna do our absolute level best to not like cut you off. And because, you know, we kind of get around and, you know, we get into other people's sentences and whatever and stuff like that. But, you know, you got a lot of good things to say, and I want you to have, you know, the wide wide breath to say it.
I'll do my best to, you know, point out like, hey, I got something to say, but
yeah, and then
I
everybody
don't.
is on it's like an automatic mute once Derek does this. Go ahead.
That's right. Okay, I'm in.
Okay, we're all in.
I think we should have Derek read just the whole time. Like none of us read.
That's a lot of reading
You
today.
would be the one to say that because you don't want to accidentally get one of the sections where it's just a bunch of names.
Right.
I did that last time and I killed it.
You didn't kill it. You murdered it. You genocided it. Maybe probably shouldn't have said that. But like I'm just saying, like you did a great job. It was actually spectacular.
I told my wife I did a good job and she just rolled her eyes at me. Like she's like, You're so full of yourself. I was like, you don't know.
Hey, honey, I read good.
Yeah. I was like, you don't know how much crap I get on there for like messing up names. Like,
Did you know her during your referring to yourself in the third person phase, or was that
like right towards the end of it?
Oh.
She's the one that kind of broke me of it.
That's probably why she didn't give a crap about the fact that you read good and you were bragging on yourself. Because she's like, if I put gasoline into this vehicle, this is going to be bad for everybody.
Douche will return.
You know what? The next time you teach Sunday school, because it's not called
Which is next
Adopt
week.
Bible Fellowship, like I think you should just refer to yourself in the third person and just own it. Like and because most people won't be in on the joke, they're going to be like, "What is he doing? What is happening right now?"
going on?
And just wait until the very end and be like, "This is actually a lesson in humility."
Do you know the baseball player who used to refer to himself as
Ricky Henderson,
That's
baby.
right.
Ricky would be on first base. He'd be talking to Will Clark and be like, "Ricky about to steal second." And he would be like looking around like, "What?
Where's Ricky?
Where Ricky at?" Like, Ricky gone. Like, yeah, that's basically
that's
Ricky
funny.
Henderson. But I will say, I personally have been looking forward to this batch of the Forging Table for a very long time, right? We're talking months. And the reason is because, Jake, you haven't been on in a while.
I know it's
And
coming.
we talked about this, but, you know, I've talked about Lord of the Rings on the show a little bit. And I've talked about how I'm, you know, not really
You
a
love it.
fan.
You
And I
love it.
watched 1.5 of the things, you know, 20-something years ago. But out of nowhere, my wife, a few months ago, goes, you know, I'd actually like to watch Lord of the Rings. Like, we were not talking about movies. We were not talking about, hey, what should we watch next? And she had just heard about it so much in culture. She had never watched it. She doesn't really, you know, get any of the, you know, Lord of the Rings jokes or any of those types of things. And so I was like, and immediately in that moment, I didn't think, castigate her, tell her she's a moron. It was like, no, let's think about this. So we tell Lord of the Rings super fan Jake Winkler, okay? And Jake, like any good accountant, the spreadsheet guy, we told you our problem.
Yes.
And our problem is these movies are 3.5 hours long. We couldn't possibly sit there and watch that just with the kids and when we go to bed. And so you took it upon yourself and you broke down the entire trilogy, the extended versions of each movie into 1 hour to an hour, 15-minute chunks for the benefit of Kelsey and I. And so for that, we are so thankful that you took time out of your day to do it. And so here we are.
I really wanted you to like them.
How was it?
Now, well, I'm getting there, Ryan. If you'll let me slowly build. Goodness gracious. Read the room. This is twice now. That's 2 strikes, and we're like less than 5 minutes into here. You busted up the tension with him, and now you're not letting me do my slow
tension was
build.
already there. He
No,
was
I
about
know.
to cry.
You let it build.
And see, now you're changing the
He
subject.
could have been the first person to cry.
I'm
on
used
the
to
fortune
silence.
table.
I'm
Just
good with
think
it. You know.
So there we are.
Okay.
We're watching Lord of the Rings, okay? And we watched the first one, right?
Okay.
Fellowship of the Ring took us a couple of weeks to get through it. I mean, but we're excited. We're wanting to give this like full effort and full energy. And Kelsey's very positive. Like she can think of one movie ever that she watched that she didn't like. I think it was called Brave New World with Colin Farrell. I don't know. It's like 30 years old. I don't know. But anyway, so we're watching the first one. We're watching the second one, and then we finished the third one. And we don't talk about it like in between episodes. Like, hey, how do you think it's going? And not episodes, but movies, like, those types of things. And we just kind of get to the end. And collectively as a house, we give Lord of the Rings, she gave it a 6 out of 10. I gave it a 4 out of 10
Okay.
for a myriad of reasons. And I'm just going to give you a few reasons. You guys feel free to chime in. But I've got 4 reasons why the Lord of the Rings trilogy might be the most overrated trilogy
Oh boy.
of all time. Okay? So here, some of these things, these are just things. First of all, Frodo is the worst. I wanted him to die from the first 30 minutes of the first film throughout the entire end. Awful. I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that Russell Crowe was supposed to be Aragorn because
That would have made the movie.
wouldn't that have been something? I would probably be singing off a different sheet of music because Russell Crowe is like my absolute favorite. The stairs to Mordor apparently are like the most important thing, but there's no one there to guard it. But we're just gonna like ignore that, I guess.
Oh, I got a good reason for that.
Okay. Go ahead. What's a good reason?
So you have to take into context. There's the stairs of Mordor, but by the time they actually get to the stairs of Mordor, they had already fought a battle at Minas Tirith. The army had been largely wiped out, and you had a remaining portion.
Ryan already fell asleep during your answer. But
I'm
go ahead.
sorry,
I'm listening.
But you have
'cause-
a remaining portion of the army that Sauron had that's there, and he only knows that there's hobbits who have the ring, and there's hobbits who are outside with the remaining military from Middle Earth that are coming at the gates with Aragorn, who's the king. So,
okay. You know what? I'll take that off my list.
Okay.
So there you go. You've convinced me to take one thing off my list, but let me get through the rest of them.
All right.
Orlando Bloom might be the worst. I cannot stand him in just about any film whatsoever. There was a girl power moment in one of these movies. This like blonde chick, she killed a dragon, and she's like, no man, or someone said, no man can kill me, and she says, I'm no man, and then she kills the ultimate bad guy, this little like 110-pound blonde chick, super lame. The only touching moment was
that
whenever
in the book?
I have no idea.
It is.
We're not going to get to the
Okay.
books.
I'm just wondering. I was just wondering if it was
Probably.
in the book.
Probably in the books. The only touching moment was when the crappy king said that the wrong son died. Like that brought like a tear to my eye. Don't even know who it was. Now, I will say in the third movie, those elephants, the bad guys on the elephants, those are super cool. So let's go ahead and say like the mammoth elephant like people thing. The fact that there are extended editions of these movies is absolutely insane because I feel like the entire thing could have been 1 2-hour movie, and people are spending like 11 hours watching this entire thing. But here are the biggest reasons why the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and we'll go one by one.
Those weren't the reasons?
And those were all warm
It's
up.
just points.
And
That was your
look,
appetizer.
Look,
What
we
sucks.
got a couple of guys here that could say, Kyle, you're off your rocker, or no, Kyle, I'm with you. But here are 4 main reasons that I just cannot get over. The fact that I even gave it 4 out of 10 stars, I wanted to give it 3.
That's good.
Okay. The first one might be the most egregious plot hole that I've ever experienced in my entire life, and I am not good at seeing plot holes in movies. And people are like, "Oh, there's such a big plot hole." I'm like, it's fine by
Gladiator
me.
2, man.
Are we going to go there again? I thought we were past this. Okay, you hush. You 5 minutes. No talking. So, Jake,
Okay.
there's this undead zombie army
Yeah.
that the entire time it's just in the woods somewhere existing, and Aragorn just kind of, I remember there's an undead army that if I can just convince him to be on my team. Do you have notes there? Are you ready to
No.
go like with your notes? All we got to do is get this undead army to come and fight for us, and it'll be awesome. So that's kind of dumb. You could have just gone there from the beginning, but again, there's like 2.5 films
couldn't, though.
that you have to get through. But then
There's a reason for that.
they have them fight in the penultimate battle, not the final one. They let the undead zombie army go before the final battle.
Okay.
What like
I got you.
tell me.
So number
Help
one,
me.
they could not get that army until the blade was remade.
Why?
Because that was the signifier of the actual king, because there wasn't a king at Minas Tirith.
Okay, so
That
they
was a
redid
steward.
it.
They had
But
to
now why
remake the
let him
blade.
go before the last battle?
Well,
It's an army of dudes that
was
can't
his,
die.
That was his word. I mean, it's a matter of, he said that if they fought this battle, that he would release them. They did, and he released them.
What a stupid king he is.
Just saying.
Like, to even say, like,
Or is he a benevolent king?
oh yeah, he's so benevolent. He's so benevolent that the one thing that could guarantee victory, he's like, you know what, we'll chance it on this battle after this one.
These were a group of men who were cursed by a previous king for not showing up in battle. They were cowardly. They didn't want to stick around anymore. I mean, they had already revealed their character. They come back, they fight one time to be relieved of a curse. I'm just saying, it's the flaw of Again, it's the flaw of man. The
General
thing is,
Custard would look at Aragorn
the
like,
thing
what
is
a moron.
I look at the Lord of the Rings is basically just a treatise on the flaws that remain in men at all times. So,
Can I get a break on the 5 minutes?
Okay, yeah, your 5 minutes is up.
All right. I just have a question. Like, how bad of a king do you have to be to not have the forethought to think of, like, hey, I'm going to have extra battles, and I'm going to go ahead and just, like...
Yeah, I'm just going to convince these guys to do one, because I got the super sword.
Hey, you guys are really lazy. Let me get you guys to do this one battle. I'll be like, nah, bro, give me 4 battles, and I'll give you
he's a
freedom.
terrible negotiator.
Yeah,
Jake.
horrible negotiator.
I'm just saying.
Russell Crowe would not have allowed that.
No, Russell Crowe would be like...
Let's be real.
He would have gave him a speech where they'd be like, we'll fight whatever you want us to
we'll do
fight.
it for free.
Yeah.
We'll fight forever.
Yeah, like get Mel Gibson in there with him.
Yeah.
Come on.
And Russell Crowe.
I'm sure.
You had Legolas as Mel Gibson as Legolas, and then you have Russell
old
Crowe as
Legolas.
Aragorn.
Do the remake.
Boom.
Okay, all right, we got to move on past this point,
All right.
because I've already won that point. So we need to go to the next one. So you're telling me that Gandalf,
Yeah.
he couldn't have flown Frodo and his boyfriend to Mount Doom on one of the eagles that he flew him out on?
Well,
He couldn't have flown him in?
So, good question. I mean, so that is the notorious plot hole that people basically can't really answer. Could he have summoned an eagle to actually fly them all the way into Mount Doom? Now, I would make my typical response is, okay, how many eagles? How many Nazgul? Because remember when he flew in there, when they flew the eagles out, a lot of the Nazgul had already been killed. So
Which ones were they?
those were the big flying dragons that
Okay,
had
got it. The dark.
So there's
nasty dragons.
there's at least 7 of those.
You know what? Let's bring a pilot in here.
Yeah.
Derek, you're a pilot. Could they have flown one of these eagles into the dang mountain from the beginning?
I'm getting painted as a
Right?
real nerd here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's getting worse as you keep. Could they have just flown them in there from the beginning, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible.
Okay, boom. So
But
that's 2 points to
I don't
0.
know.
So we're currently winning. Shh,
It's about the
Derek.
journey.
Yeah,
about the
and
journey.
the journey.
You got to
Okay.
have the struggle.
Now we got another egregious thing. Okay, Frodo, the worst. He is celebrated for having destroyed the ring, but he didn't even destroy the ring. He gets all the way up there. He has to have his boyfriend carry him all the way into the thing because I couldn't possibly walk anymore. And then the little goblin guy or whatever his thing is, he
Gollum.
comes. Yeah, Smeagol Gollum. He comes in there. And then they get into a fight, and all of a sudden he's got this burst of energy. He wasn't going to destroy the ring. It was because in the middle of this kerfuffle, the ring falls off. So he gets all the accolades, and he didn't even mean to do it. And he's the hero?
yeah.
How?
Okay. So, number 1, who saw him succumb to that?
What do you mean, who?
Who saw him succumb to the temptation of, we'll call it the ring, but really it's sin? Who called him? Who saw him do that?
He did.
Sam.
Sam, his boyfriend.
Sam.
Were they dating?
Right.
No.
Definitely did.
Sam and Gollum. That
We're
was
recording
it.
this during Pride Month. They were
Yeah.
dating.
Sam and Gollum are the only 2.
Okay.
Gollum took the ring down with him. Sam is the only one who knew, and Sam says nothing, knowing that his brother is struggling with that hold on the ring. So in a very real way, I would say Frodo is painted as the hero, as the guy who destroyed the ring because he threw it in the fire and destroyed it. But in reality, who's the real hero here? The hero was Sam. Hero was Sam in all of this story, because in that moment, he says, my brother was weak. I carried him up into the mountain. As Grassmeyer always say, it's the perfect foxhole illustration. I can't carry your sin.
But I can
can't
carry you.
I can carry you.
Yeah.
But also in that moment, when his brother succumbs to sin, instead of going like, well, you know, he messed up. He could have destroyed it. He could have thrown it in, but he didn't. Instead of doing that, he basically remained silent and backs his brother in that moment. I go, No, it's actually way more touching if you actually don't look at necessarily as Frodo as the penultimate hero here. And by the way, I don't think your problem was with Frodo. I would say your problem is with Elijah Wood, because I don't like Elijah Wood very much.
Same. Same.
I like
Okay.
Elijah Wood.
No.
In what?
Every time I see him on
Forever Young with Mel Gibson.
I don't like him in any movie. He just creeps me out. So
Something in the
I
eyes.
feel like
Something-
every time I saw him,
But wait, you're not talking about what I'm talking about, which
Yeah.
is the fact that Frodo didn't mean to throw the ring in.
No.
That's
But then Sam didn't throw it in either.
No, but Sam didn't.
How's
it was
he
an
a hero?
accident. They destroyed it by accident.
He destroyed it by accident in a battle with Gollum. But again, which Gollum is just my favorite character in the movie, because honestly, it's essentially what it looks like to essentially battle with sin your entire life, constantly succumb to it, put your sin on a pedestal, and then watch yourself become a creature that you're just not meant to be. But he succumbs to it over and over and over again. And then, this is the best part of it, he finds somebody who seems to have mastered the sin, Frodo, and decides to give his life over to him as opposed to abandoning the sin itself. So Gollum and Frodo was going to actually become what Gollum was had he had to carry that sin further.
That's actually an interesting point.
Sin.
It's an interesting point. Let me ask you this. So bring it around to like a real world example. So would this be like somebody, and I'm not, there's no sarcasm here. Would this literally be like someone following a pastor and not following Christ?
Yes.
So it's like, I'm going to follow someone that seems holy, that seems to have it going on. And then, when that person falls, whether it's Michael Tate of Newsboys or Ravi Zacharias or RGIM or your favorite pastor, like you're following a pastor or a Christian celebrity and you're not following Christ.
How strong is your faith?
Okay. I'm going to leave it on my list. So it's 3 to nothing.
Sam's fine.
So,
Three to-
Sam's faith was stronger?
In a very real way, yes.
Then Frodo's is what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yeah. All right.
I don't want us to get too far into this because now we're actually like feeling like we're like talking
You know
about
what's
the
funny
I feel like I
about
should have
this?
watched this before
It
we
still
started.
doesn't even make
Did you-
me want to watch it.
But you've seen it before.
I mean, a
I
long
was the only
time
one that
ago,
hadn't seen it.
I
was
fell
in, like, high
asleep in
school,
half
probably.
of them. Yeah.
But that's when I tried to watch it. Yeah, but I
I
definitely
tried to
fell
watch it
asleep.
in high school. I slept through the first two.
I liked it in high school.
I've seen him probably, I don't know.
Dude,
I can't even
don't-
count.
don't
20,
say it.
20 to 30
No,
times.
you haven't.
Can I just point this out? The dude's built like an orc and he's furry like a
Or a
freaking
cop.
hobbit. You know?
Yeah, just orcs and hobbits and goblins and elves.
was
and
like-
just like, oh my God, all these nerds.
Like an orc and a hobbit made a baby.
But the last thing,
Boom.
the last
Amen.
thing, and this is the least egregious, but by the end of the third movie, I was so ready for it to be over,
Yeah.
and it would not end.
So-
there were like 5 or 6
Yeah.
different endings, and the dumbest possible ending.
Yeah.
Sam,
Yeah.
Frodo's long lost boyfriend, gets up. He's got his wife, who's just a beard for him, and she's got the kids and all the different things. And the kid just comes up to him and he picks the kid up
Yeah.
on his hip, and then he just walks into the house and they shut the door, and that's the ending.
Yeah.
Like. No, you got Frodo going off on a boat trip. I wonder what they were doing on that boat, right? And so here they are going off on a boat trip to God knows where for God knows what reason. And then, there's another ending where there's a wedding, and then
The
there's
Ascension.
like another
Sorry.
there's another ending somewhere else, and then the worst possible. They had 17 endings and they picked the worst one. But they put them all in there.
No, it's a great ending.
But you just
I'll
said,
tell you what.
did you
Peter
just say
Jack-
the boat was the Ascension?
It's Tolkien's version of the Ascension.
Why would Frodo is a Christ-like figure then?
Frodo is the priest version.
So it's
of
like
the-
priest, king is Aragorn, and the prophet is
Gandalf.
That's because he was Catholic, so he saw it in kind of the
But I'm like-
triune Trinity.
And so
thing.
ironically,
But that's like saying Christ went into sin and was trying to hold on to the sin.
No, I mean, again, it's not like you're not painting him as Jesus. I mean, because nobody was 3 in 1, right?
That's true.
So you're not painting him literally as Jesus in that moment. You're just saying that. But what I would say, the reason that the Sam ending, I love that ending personally, is think of it this way: you have these monumental moments where all of Gondor's bowing down to them. They go back and Sam's getting married, and they go to the boat and they see Frodo off and they see Gandalf off, and they're never going to see him again. And then Sam goes back and just goes back to what he's supposed to be doing. And I'm going to go back and live my life as a family man. And if you really wanted to look back at it, it's like I came back, again, going back to the disciples, and because the Fellowship of the Ring is supposed to mimic the 12 disciples in a way.
Okay.
But Sam almost is Peter, and Peter sticks behind after going through so many travails with Jesus, and essentially is called to live out the mission that he was supposed to be doing as his instructions from Christ. Now, what did Frodo tell him to do?
Don't ever forget me. Don't ever let go.
No,
I can't remember. What was it?
But essentially, it's like his place is in the Shire. His place is here. And to go back and basically be with his family and raise a family. So, I mean, like I said, my appreciation has grown of that film and the trilogy since I've immersed myself more in the Word. And so I see Christianity painted all over it. Which I think is what Tolkien's intent was.
Can we agree, though, that Peter Jackson he's like, okay, I have 7 endings, and I can't figure out which the best one is, and let's just put them all at the end.
To be fair, I did get up 3 different times thinking that the movie was over when I watched it in theaters.
I had to pee so bad. I had to pee so bad.
Is it like that in the book?
Yes.
Is there like 7 endings?
Well, they don't have like 7 endings in the book. It's kind of a continuation. Like there's things that even on their trip back to the Shire, they actually had experienced some adversity. The group did, but they cut that out.
But I think the one thing that we can agree on is that no one should ever watch Lord of the Rings ever again, right?
No.
You're shaking on it right now. He's shaking on it, America. See right there? Okay. Well, you know what? You're into what you're into.
Yeah, I get it.
I just got to say, I gave it full, completely, like slate clean. I was available to like Lord of the Rings, and I swear to goodness, it just didn't work out.
It's fine. It's not everybody's cup of tea. They're long movies. I get it. But
And you watched all 3.
We watched all 3, or it took us a couple of months to kind of get through all. And some people are like, well, if you had watched them all together, I'm like, nah, brother. Nah, brother, that would have.
He broke it up really well for you, because I remember getting that
yeah,
text.
I shared the text around. I was like,
who likes Lord of the Rings this much?
Now, wait a minute. This is very.
Hey, look, I was going through and being like, okay, this is about where I would stop it right here.
But wait. Are you going through from memory, or were you looking at like a rundown?
I couldn't go through memory.
Okay, that's okay. Man. Thank God. This whole time,
I thought it was memory.
That was my most nerve-wracking question I had for you, actually, because if you took it from memory, this was just not going to work out.
I was like, bro.
Exactly 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 33 seconds in.
That's what we thought. We thought there was a chance of that.
I literally thought.
Well, Jake, I appreciate you defending this with every fiber of your being. Hopefully, one day you're asked to do the same for something real and not a bunch.
I just want to let you know, Jake, if you were ever in the hospital, I would come and hang out with you and watch Lord of the Rings.
I appreciate that, Ryan.
You know what? I'll dedicate to the same thing.
Okay.
If you're ever in the hospital and you're like you can't move or whatever, you want to watch Lord of the Rings,
I will watch it with you.
That is the only circumstance.
I fully expect Kyle and Ryan to sit there and probably roast the movie while we're watching.
Yeah, I didn't say I'd sit there quietly.
I will sit there quietly. Because while you're watching it, I'll fall asleep. I'll be like,
no, that would be awesome. What was that show back in the day where it was like they would show a terrible
Mystery
sci-fi
Science
movie?
Theater
Okay,
3000.
Mystery Science Theater or whatever. So,
Yeah.
So you had like the 2 puppets and the guy sitting in the front, and they're just roasting the movie the entire time. Yeah, that's what we would be doing. The entire
Classic.
Can you hurry up and go to the hospital so that we can like try that out? Not for something serious.
I would be counting how many gay jokes that Kyle would throw out in regards to Lord of the Rings.
There would be so many before we
Anytime
hit.
Frodo and Sam were on the screen.
As long as we get to watch it in June, I think we're good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say, like, there would probably be a few of those before we even hit play on the first one. Just like, you kind of get everything started. But let's transfer from a terrible story that's not real to a great story that is real. We got a lot of drama building here in this batch of Genesis that we're getting into. So, guys, obviously, make sure that you're read all the way through the end of 44 because we're going to be doing Genesis 44 today. We're going to keep everything going with Joseph and the narrative of Joseph and his brothers. So, Derek, this is your time to shine, my friend.
Baby.
So you're going to read the first 13 verses. I don't see any really difficult words, but hopefully there's one in there.
I'm sure I'll screw something
Ready,
up.
set, go.
All right. Then he commanded the steward of his house, fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his money for the grain. And he did as Joseph, and I already screwed it up. Joseph told him.
Sorry, Jovi.
Sorry, Joby.
Pause. Wait a minute. Sorry. Dang it. Okay.
Sorry.
I was not going to say anything, but we do have to talk about this.
Man, I had to do it.
I think this is actually appropriate. So I get some very interesting emails from fans, right? And a lot of them are very encouraging, very nice. Like, this is what your show's done for me. This is what the 4G table's done for me. Like all those types of things. But out of nowhere, I get this email castigating not only me, but everyone participating on the forging table for making an idol of Joby Martin because we say, sorry, Joby. And at first I thought, oh, this guy doesn't understand the joke. And so like any great comedian, I explain the joke, right? Because obviously it's going to be way funnier after you explain it in detail. And no, I was confused. He got the joke. He thought we were literally creating an idol out of Joby by saying sorry, Joby, as a joke because we know that he listens to these episodes. So, buddy, if you're still listening to this show, I hate to inform you, you're a gigantic moron. But you're so are we at times, and so in that way, we are all brothers. And so you're more than welcome to continue listening. Yeah,
because I'm an idiot too.
Hey, I've gone out over my skis and I've been critical of things, and I look back and I'm like, sheesh, that person was right, or I was just getting way too excited about something. But there are secondary issues, and then there's whatever issue this was, because I'm giving the guy the benefit of the doubt. He thinks in his heart we are truly making an idol out of a pastor, something that I rail against on my show. Don't make an idol out of your favorite pastor, podcaster, sports star, like whatever the thing is. But my goodness.
God forbid Joby does anything wrong.
Yeah, he's out. We're going to destroy him right here on the forging table.
I'll be the first one to be like, man, Joby.
Yeah, we know you would. Yeah, you would be the first one.
Yeah, but it wouldn't shake my faith. So
Derek, we lost all that momentum you had created.
We got 2
if you had
verses
just
in.
said the word, you know what we're going to do out of reverence for the scripture? We're going to start back over in verse 1, and if you make a mistake, who cares? We'll just keep moving. Let's go.
All right. Verse 1. Then he commanded the stewards of his house, fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his money for the grain. And he did as Joseph told him. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away with their donkeys. They had gone only a short distance from the city. Now Joseph said to his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, Why have you repaid evil for good? Is it not from this that my Lord drinks? And by this he practices divination? You have done evil in doing this. When he overtook them, he spoke to them these words. They said to him, Why does my Lord speak such words as these? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Behold, the money that we found in the mouths of our sacks we brought back to you from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? Whichever of your servants is found with it shall die, and we also will be my Lord's servants. He said, Let it be as you say. He who is found with it shall be my servant, and the rest of you shall be innocent. Then each man quickly lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack. And he searched, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city.
So they find the cup in the youngest brother's sack. The fact that they tore their clothes, I mean, this is real distress. We don't really understand this in a modern parlance. Like, we're never going to Hulk Hogan our shirt because we're in distress, but this was like a thing that they would do. This is very indicative of a deep love and affection and dedication to their younger brother, something that was not there for Joseph. But even going back and talking about this entire situation, I mean, this is like the final test that Joseph has to test their fidelity as a family. And I mean, I will say at first I was like, what exactly was the point of this and all this? Because I was just missing who, it was Benjamin. It was the youngest. And he had to be like, okay, are these the same guys that picked on the youngest, when it was me? Did they just move this attention on to Benjamin?
Or was it, another possibility is Benjamin was the son of Jacob and Rachel.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is there still resentment towards the favoritism that Jacob showed towards Rachel and her offspring? Is that still existing?
Yep.
So, and I think the other thing that's interesting here is the quick little pivot that Joseph does, because in verse 9, they talk about whichever your servants is found with it shall die, and we will be my Lord's servants. Okay. So what was their original intent with Joseph when they sold him into slavery? They were going to kill him.
Right.
Yep.
Then they changed their mind.
We'll sell him.
We'll
Be a
sell
servant.
him.
Yeah.
So literally Joseph almost pivots here and says, what you did to me years ago, you, believe it or not, took some mercy on me by selling me into slavery. As horrible as that sounds, it's still like better than death. So I won't kill this person, but and you won't be my servants, but this person will be my servant, and I will release the rest of you.
I think what we're seeing here is we're seeing Joseph practice emotional control. I mean, from the moment he saw his brothers, you got to imagine what kind of emotion is coming on to him. You know, he wants to know about his brother Benjamin. He wants to know about his father.
Right.
He also might be dealing with anger, two brothers who sold him in slavery. And so if we look back at the other chapter, which we look and we see when he puts them in prison, you know, instead
Chapter
of
42.
Yeah, in chapter 42, he puts them in prison for a couple of days. And then he shows mercy again by rather than just sending one back to bring Benjamin, he keeps one and sends 9 back. And so he's showing mercy there, just like they showed mercy to him by not killing him. And then we're going to see with off Jake's point is that with Benjamin didn't come along with them. His father kept him back.
Yeah, he
on
wanted
that
to
journey
keep them
because
second time too.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to send him back. And that's because they're seeing that favoritism that Joseph had with Benjamin. And so now he's testing them. And I think one of the things that I'd like to point out is the deviation portion that you see where he uses the cup. The cup has some significance in the fact of deviation.
The divination.
The divination is that Joseph's trying to seek the knowledge of his brother's hearts because Joseph knows that he is a powerful man in Egypt. And that if he were to bring his family to Egypt, his brothers are going to be a part of that power. And then you could have another Sons of Eli type thing.
So I was going to, before, you mentioned a second time with Benjamin. What were you talking about, Derek?
Just that this is their second time coming. The first time,
Okay,
they didn't send Benjamin, and the dad didn't want to, or Jacob didn't want to send him the second time, but they were like, he has to come, or he won't see.
They won't
Joseph.
get grain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I think an important thing here as well so some people said, hey, this was deceitful, right? Like kind of what it's being done to kind of like surmise. Like there's a difference between a test and deceit. I mean, because he was not deceiving them. He was literally testing them in this moment.
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing like, for whatever reason, this comes to mind, like when a cop pulls someone over and they're trying to test, okay, what is this powder? What is this substance? And they put it in something like they're testing it. Like they're not doing anything deceitful. Like how else could Joseph have come to the conclusion that his brothers had matured or changed or been repentant?
He had to, because the thing that if he would have said, hey, it's me, your brother Joseph, when he first saw them, if their hearts hadn't changed and they see him in this power, do you think they're going to feign what their heart's desires were at that one point? Like, he had to put them through this test because he has, I don't know, if you think about it, Joseph had so much power that we don't even realize. I mean, he was second in command in Egypt, and he knew it. Like, Joseph is not a stupid person, and God gave him a lot of wisdom, and he knows the power that he can wield. And so if he brings his brothers in because he has the love for his father and his younger brother, he's going to want to bring them to Egypt. If he brings his brothers in and their hearts haven't changed, he's giving them power that should not be given.
So Ryan, you touched on the point of the divination.
Yeah.
I want you to think about how clever Joseph is here. So,
Are you about to make a Lord of the Rings reference?
No.
You just had the
I
look
know.
on your face. You
I know
had the
how
look on your
clever he
face.
is.
I had to make sure.
I appreciate cleverness whenever I see
All
it.
right,
I,
so
I
elf-
see it. Yeah, I know
Okay.
where you're
An
going.
elf,
So-
a hobbit, and a warlord walk into a bar.
So
That's how it starts.
There's a couple of things here. Divination in Egypt was only accessible to like the people of very, very high status, which obviously he would have been one. And
It
there
was also a cult.
yeah, and there was 2 different types, lecanomancy and hydromancy, that were practice that would have basically involved the silver cup that he gave them. But also keep in mind all the things that Joseph revealed to his brothers about his brothers before this. So he already knows so much about these men, and they're obviously going to look at him and go, he knows what's going on. He knows because he's a highborn in Egypt. We know they practice this. Oh, and by the way, he's already revealed a whole bunch of things to us, even though it's just, yeah, I know things about you because I'm your brother, but they don't know he's their brother. So I just thought that was, I think it's very clever because it's like, oh, I practice, don't you know I can practice divination? It's like, yeah, I do know that.
What's also great is when his brothers start speaking in Hebrew. They think that they're speaking and he can't understand it because he's talking through an interpreter. But he can hear everything they're saying. At one point, they actually bring out their sin of what they've done to their brother. And he has to walk away. Think of the emotional impact on that. He has to walk away because of his emotions get to him. Because he cannot give away who he is right now. He doesn't want to.
Well, okay,
And
so I mean, there's poker face, and then there's whatever this is. Because I mean, even you get to the end there with verse 13. If we had kind of all done this, to somebody like that, and then we get busted like that, like, would we have the quick thought to, like, okay, pretend like we're in distress and start ripping our clothes and all that? This came up recently. This is going to be a very obscure reference, but I think people will at least understand it. So there are certain fouls in MMA to where, like, if a fighter is grounded, right? So if his knees are on the ground or something like that, you can't throw a strike at their head. So imagine a guy like on all fours, he's kind of out of it, and then you go and soccer kick his head. Incredibly, incredibly dangerous, right? It was allowed back in the day. It's not really allowed in main stuff, especially not in the UFC. There was a fighter, I can't even remember the fighter's name. He's fighting Paul Craig, a guy from Scotland, and Paul Craig throws an illegal strike that looks like it lands. It looks like it lands right on the guy's face. The guy responds like this to the referee, like, "What are you doing?" And then he goes down as if he's been knocked unconscious.
Is he a soccer player?
And then, like, it kind of looked like it. I think he was from a soccer playing nation. And so then he acts like he comes back to. And then sometimes when fighters get knocked out or choked out, they'll start wrestling the referee because they think the fight's still on. And so he, like, pretends and does all this stuff. He does this big charade and act to make it seem like he was actually knocked unconscious by an illegal blow. So they end up doing like a no contest or something for the fight. But when you look back at the replay, the strike doesn't land. So the guy does this whole big production, like, I was knocked out, because he wanted to get a cheap win, because these guys are on show money and win money. So it's like you can double your payout if you win, right? You get paid X amount just to show up. You get paid X amount if you win. And so it's like, in his mind, he immediately thought, this is the best idea. Like, I'm just going to pretend, but it was so blatantly obvious. And so, like, even in a situation like this with these brothers, they wouldn't have just immediately thought to themselves, like, oh, let's just pretend like we're really, really distraught here and yank our clothes and all that, because they didn't think that they were being tested.
No, they didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about it too, is that they rip their clothes and they load their donkeys and they return to the city. Like, if they were the men that they were before when they threw Joseph in the pit, they would have been like, hey, this is the favorite brother. This is what he gets. We're peacing out. But they've seen the heartache that they've done to their father in regards to Joseph. And then they're seeing all these things happen. And so they're remorseful. So, and we saw that remorseness in past chapters, in the fact that when they were speaking in Hebrew, Joseph heard them talk about their sin.
Absolutely. Let's keep this narrative going. We're just going to do a few verses here. So, Derek, are you like all-time quarterback here, or are you just going to keep reading? Is that like...
I can read.
All right, so debatable. But hey, you have... Sorry, but you only get a few verses here, so you just get 14 through 17. So here you go. Do a good job. Rachel's watching. Come on.
No, she's not.
Come on, buddy. 14 through 17, please.
14 through 17. I don't have to turn the page.
That's right. Another issue.
When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there. They fell before him to the ground. Joseph said to them, "What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know a man like me can indeed practice divination?" And Judah said, "What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out God has found out the guilt of our servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he, also in whose hands the cup has been found." But he said, "Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my servant. But as for you, go in peace to your father."
And just real quick, just to make sure, we are talking about divination, not you've been saying deviation, so that's like deviating.
I thought I
off
said
of,
divination.
Yeah, it's okay, but yeah, it's like
close.
divination. That's basically like being able to surmise stuff about the future through like spiritual realms and stuff like that. So some people look at that in a modern way, like what would it be, like palm readings and tarot cards and like crap like that. So there's kind of like a new age thing like that. But in this section here, I mean, we have a rather dramatic choice, right? For these brothers. I mean, it's literally themselves or their father and their brother.
Yep.
Like that's basically what they're up against here. And again, if you're reading this, right, after it was first written down, or if this was maybe taught to you in school or something as a kid, you don't know where this is going, right? Because you have all this track record of these brothers being horrible and selfish, and now they're being put to a decision, and it's like, yeah, we don't exactly know where this is going to go.
Yep. Derek looks like he's...
Derek leaning into the mic. Let's go.
Derek.
Never mind. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the ultimate buildup, right? The buildup and the nothing.
I think it was Judah prior to this is the one that goes to Jacob, and it's like, we have to bring him to go even meet with Joseph, who they don't know who it is yet. And so you can see him like, I have to go back and beg with Joseph to let me bring Benjamin back home, who I promised I would bring back to my father, basically.
Well, he also gave up his sons too. He said, if
Right.
we don't bring them back, you can kill my sons or have my sons. And, Judah, I think, and Judah was the ringleader. He wasn't the ringleader in the whole thing. I think he kept Simeon. If we read back in last chapter, when he sent them all back, he kept Simeon, which kind of, most commentaries will say that Simeon was more like the ringleader of wanting to kill Joseph. But Judah was the one that
talked him into selling him.
And so I don't think you're going to find in the Bible where it actually shows Simeon as the ringleader, but that's just a guess. But Judah's like taking, and we're going to get into this in further chapters about Judah, but Judah's like kind of taking the lead role of the son, the firstborn in this way. So, because we already saw the fall of Levi and Reuben and Simeon.
When we see this a few chapters later with Jacob blessing his sons, when he talks about Simeon and Levi, it's like, all right, I mean, you were brothers of violence and did
Shechem.
some pretty horrific stuff. And so it's like they basically brought a new reputation for the family that had not been, like, imagine two people from your entire family tree do something really horrific and wrong, but your entire name, like, we don't have to say any particular names, but it's like, okay, the one that came to mind, Hitler. Imagine being in the Hitler family in the 1930s and 40s in Europe and all of that. And it's like, obviously, one of the most evil people ever, at least by our standards. It's like you've burned an entire name, right? That's not exactly what happened here, but it is a stain of reputation that happens. And we've seen this from other people. I was talking to one of my Dominion guys, and one of them, his dad was a little bit of a shystery type of a guy, and he kind of screwed some people over. And so his wife is still dealing with some of the ramifications years and years and years down the road of living in this small community where she didn't do anything to these people, but she was directly attached to and married to a person that really, really screwed over some people in a really, really bad way. And so it's just, you get that stain of guilt on you even long after the fact. Let's go ahead and wrap up the reading here for Genesis. So you get first rights of refusal, Derek, if you'd like to come in here, or if you want Jake to scream the Bible. Jake, you just have such a booming voice. It's because I'm jealous. That's why I make it. I mean, I do have you turned down quite a bit, and you're still booming over the mic. So Derek, do you want to finish?
Let's hear it, Jake.
All right, Jake, you're gonna go ahead and finish out Genesis 14, starting in verse 18.
Then Judah went up to him and said, O my Lord, please let your servant speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not your anger burn against your servant. For you are like Pharaoh himself. My Lord asked his servant, saying, Have you a father or a brother? And we said to my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a young brother, the child of his old age. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him. We said to my Lord, The boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. Then you said to your servants, Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall not see my face again. When we went back to your servant my father, we told him the words of my Lord, and when our father said, Go again, buy us a little food, we said, We cannot go down. If our youngest brother goes with us, then we will go down. For we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Then your servant, my father, said to us, You know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One left me, and I said, Surely he has been torn to pieces, and I have never seen him since. If you take this one also from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs and evil to Sheol. Now therefore, as soon as I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, then, as his life is bound up in the boy's life, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die. And your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant, our father, with sorrow to Sheol. For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, If I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father all my life. Now therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my Lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would find my father.
I know we give each other crap, but I think we got good readers in this group. I think all of our forging tablers, there's not anyone that sticks out as a bad reader, so nicely done. I will say here, as I was reading through this, and again, I could kind of it's rough up there sometimes, taking a few shots to the head. So sometimes I'll have to read something. I'll be like, wait a minute. No, let me make sure. And then I'll go back and reread it. We see a very different Judah here. We have a guy that was willing to basically kind of almost like haphazardly, put his sons up. And now he's putting himself up. And I wrote this down before I started reading in the commentaries, but whenever you go to verse 33, now therefore please let your servant remain instead of the boy. I mean, this is substitutionary atonement.
Yeah,
like
it's the
that's
gospel.
what this is, literally a foreshadowing of the gospel, because it's Judah for Benjamin, right? And then we find out, the final, substitutionary atonement comes from Jesus, who comes from the line of Judah, and he becomes the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And so again, even when people that are not Christians, even people that are not theists, will read parts of the Bible like this and see the connections and see that this was written over thousands of years on 3 different continents by a bunch of different authors and things like that, with the ultimate author being God. But right there, I think it was second or third time I read back and read verse 33. I was like, wait a minute. This is Judah, right?
Yep.
And so normally when I hear the name Judah, my ears perk up for, because of the podcast and things like that. But my gosh, what a picture of the gospel that we see. And people are like, when you skip the Old Testament, if you unhitch from the Old Testament, you miss stuff like this, right?
Well, the thing I also noticed too was David came from the line of Judah, and David took over for who as king?
Saul.
What tribe did he come from?
Saul.
I read this, but I forgot.
Tribe of Benjamin.
Benjamin. That's right. Oh,
that's right.
Wow.
Yeah. And so if you look at it, Judah comes to the aid of Benjamin again, and for the aid of the Israel, the people of Israel, you have
chills. Got chills, Ryan. Let's go.
you have David come in after Saul is not that great of a king and comes and saves Israel again. So, when I read that, it was just a beautiful foretelling of the gospel and just how the line of Judah, and it's just Judah stepping up. And then we're going to see in future things where Judah gets the messianic blessing. And this is just a foreshadowing of that. And, he could have done that with his brother. With Joseph. So, but he didn't. And I think now he's showing the heart change of his brothers. And, that's why he's going to play a bigger role in what happens going forward.
One, I don't want to ruin anything for next week, but even before this stance shared by Judah, you got to think Joseph had gotten the information he needed to surmise, all right, this is not the same crop of dudes, right? But this was this was a hammer at the end, to where Judah's like, okay, take me then. Mm-hmm. And, it's kind of one of those things, like that's kind of been a movie thing, like take me, let the women and children go, like that type of thing. I don't know that a whole lot of occurrences like that.
Last of the Mohicans.
Great movie.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
great soundtrack.
Can we all agree on that one?
It's a good one.
Speaking of soundtrack, Grassmeyer's not here, but
I know it's Grassmeyer's favorite soundtrack.
Back in college, we were part of this thing called Old Blue Crew, and so we would like paint up and go to the games and just like act a fool and like go stuff like that. And so his buddy of ours, Brian, he was doing this thing in, I forget, it was like some TV or radio production, whatever. And so we recorded an Old Blue Crew ad with the Last of the Mohicans, like main score in the background. And it was like the most epic thing. But I just remember thinking back at the time, I had not watched Last of the Mohicans at the time. I just thought they had found some like random music from somewhere. I'm like, man, that sounds awesome. They're like, yeah, it's Last of the Mohicans, you idiot. I was like, oh, my bad. I guess I'll go watch it today. But yeah, anyway, so that's, we should find that somewhere. Yeah. Right. So Matt
Last of the
Grassmeyer, if you're
Mohicans?
listening to this right now, because we can't text you because we're in the past, right?
Yeah.
So,
Good point.
but also in the future at the same time.
You can randomly text us 6 months from now.
Right. What if he texts us like out of nowhere, like while we're sitting here or something like that? That would be something. That's
Sorry.
weird. I don't want that to actually happen. Okay. So any other thoughts on Genesis 44 before we put a bow on it?
Well, I do want to kind of go back to so Judah is the one that had the idea of selling him into slavery.
Yeah.
So you have this whole arc here where now Judah is the one willing to go into slavery himself. Basically, you can also look, the substitutionary atonement, is obvious, but I think the other part here is also Judah himself, his redemption, the guilty conscience that he carried since the act that he performed. And to me, if you kind of, I read in the commentary I was reading, they talked about the difference between covetousness and envy, because Judah was not guilty of coveting what Joseph had. He was envious of the relationship. And so the difference between a covetous heart and an envious heart, the coveter has empty hands and wants to fill them with somebody else's goods. The envier has empty hands and therefore wants to empty the hands of the envied. And I think it's an interest, like you look now at our culture presently, I think that our culture does not teach that necessarily that envy is good, but it does teach that it's good to be envied. I think a lot of times what we would put out on social media and things like that, are we putting that out with the heart of, I want people to want this. And I don't think that that's
part of it.
And I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing to put out there if that's your main goal. And I think in a very real sense, Judah is envious of that relationship and carries that guilt his entire life, because it was emptying Joseph's hands essentially by saying, my father favors him. I'm emptying his hands by selling him into slavery. He wanted to destroy him. Right. Not necessarily. It's not like I like his coat.
It seemed like it was a dope coat. Let's be real.
But you also have the, and that's the thing you have to think about Joseph. Joseph was the firstborn of Rachel, his first love. The one that he wanted to marry. All these other kids are from, Leah, who he didn't want to marry, and their concubines, And so there was a favoritism with Joseph. Then you have the whole coat, which basically brought him on as a shepherd. Like, he was basically going to be given the blessing, over Reuben. They all knew this, and they were envious. You hit the nail on the head. They were envious of it. But I don't think Joseph was doing it to make them envy him. Mm-hmm. He was doing it because Joseph just had a pure. Well, I'm not saying you said this, but Joseph just had a pure. Joseph was like a purist. I mean, if we look at the life of Joseph, Joseph was just, there's so many correlations between him and Christ to a point. I'm not saying that Joseph was not sinless like Christ, but just how Joseph's heart worked and the character that he had made his brothers envious. Not only because their father favored him, because maybe they wanted to be a little bit like him.
Well, we talked about this on, this was a couple months ago on the forging table, but it's like, there's a chance that Joseph had a little touch of the tism, because he just basically said exactly like, remember, I think I said, I was like, we're sitting around the campfire, and he's like, hey bros, I think I had another dream.
Yeah.
It's like, man, and then he would just he was so steadfast. There was no like gray area. There was no here or there.
Maybe keep this to yourself for a little bit.
Studying more about this is like Joseph was given divine providence. Like these were gifts given not only by his dad who gave him this coat, but God gave him gifts in the fact that he could understand dreams, and he's been given these dreams, and so he's just doing, he could be touched with the tism, but I'm just saying, like, he's just doing what God gave him, and his heart, like, he didn't see the deceitfulness of his brothers. He saw the deceitful evilness of his brothers, but I mean, he's like, even through all of this, and we read all of this, he still loved them. Even when he saw them and his heart broke, he still loved them. It's like the love that Christ has for us as sinners, that he loves us even though we do things that just probably make him sad. So
what I think here as well with Judah, it doesn't seem like Judah was making one of those false promises, I'm going to put myself up knowing it's never going to get called in. So I was reminded of, I did this on the Daily Blade a few months back, but there was a Scottish pastor named John Harper, and he was going down on the Titanic, and he gave his life vest because he was asking, is anybody not saved? Does anybody not know Jesus? And one person's like, I don't know Jesus. And he gives his life vest to somebody and says, you need this more than I do. And then he spent his final moments, this is after the Titanic had sank, he's in the water without a life vest, swimming from person to person, asking if they know Christ, right? And one person that was sitting there in the water, about to die, says, I don't know Christ. So he swims over to this guy, tells him about Jesus, and then goes below the water, never comes back up, body was never discovered, right? That guy was saved, right? And then the Carpathia came and picked him up and all that, and years later he did come to Christ, right? And so he was considered John Harper's last convert. Yeah. And it was like, John Harper was not giving up his life vest assuming he was going to get another one. He was not giving up his life vest assuming like, this is probably going to work out for me in the end because I'm on Team Jesus, and everything works out for people that are on Team Jesus, right? And it's just one of those moments with Judah to where it's just like, you could tell at this moment, everything about him and his disposition was different as it pertained to his younger brother.
And I think it's with all the brothers, the fact that they all got up and left. You know, they ripped their clothes and they walked back with him.
Yep.
Rather than letting him go on his own.
Anything else on Genesis 44 before we get out? Derek, you been sitting on any nuggets over there that you want to?
Oh, well, I can't remember.
That's right.
But
Let's go.
is this the first time the brothers bow down to him? Or does that happen when they first visit the first time?
When they visit the first time, I think they bow down.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. Anyway, I thought that was... They don't know it's his brother yet, or they're the brother yet, so they don't realize that
It's like they're bowing
his
to
dream
authority.
is
Right,
coming,
right.
is coming true. But
Another thing that speaks to is emotional control.
Yeah.
Because he could have been like, freaking told y'all, right? I'm not an Egyptian. Takes
look
off
who
his
it
eye
is.
makeup. He's
Joseph,
just like,
y'all going to jail.
yeah, could have definitely done that. But guys, we are going to leave the discussion of Genesis 44 there. Come back here next week where we're going to be going through Genesis 45. Before we let you go, we are going to do a quick resilience boost at Undaunted.Life. Our mission is equipping men to push back darkness with content that forges spiritual, mental, and physical resilience. Just a reminder, we have a forging table starter set through Crossway. There are 5 amazing books, so you can get at an incredible discount. Check that out in the show notes. And as a lot of us do during our prep, we use the Logos Bible software, but don't use it at full price. Use it as a discount, and all that will be there in the show notes. And guys, we are a donation-based ministry, so if you want to know how we can pull off things like the forging table or any of the stuff that we do, it's because guys like you are donating. But before we get out of here, let's all just put hands in the middle. Just everybody, hands in the middle. Hands in the middle.
I did this earlier, and I feel like I was
Hands in the
Lord
middle.
of the Rings.
Hands in the middle. Hands in the middle. This is the fellowship of the Lord of the Rings is terrible and overrated. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a positive 5-star review. If you want me to come speak live at your event or on your podcast, just shoot me an email to info@undaunted.life. That's info@undaunted.life. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, and check out our website for everything else, including how to donate to keep more content like this coming your way. Just go to www.undaunted.life. And as always, we want to thank the band Holy Name for allowing us to use their music for our content. The music on this podcast is their song Perpetua, which is off their self-titled debut album on Face Down Records. The links are in the description. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Remember, keep pushing back darkness, keep forging spiritual, mental, and physical resilience, keep seeking the Lion of Judah.